This guy is absolutely ruthless. To complete a mission assigned by the FBI, he not only dares to face the 25mm cannon fire of an F-35 fighter jet, but also uses a car to smash a helicopter. The level of recklessness and ruthlessness is so terrifying that even seasoned assassins get chills down their spines. Everyone thinks this guy is sure to complete the mission. But little do they know, the mastermind behind it all is even more powerful. The White House itself, in his plan, is reduced to ashes. He even extends his tentacles to the nation's top secrets, plotting to control the destiny of the entire nation. Just who is this compelling figure operating behind the curtain? The story begins with a hacker named Lucy. As soon as she types the last character on her computer, all the computers at the FBI headquarters go completely dark. Faced with this sudden incident, colleagues in the investigation unit report to their superiors. Clearly, a hacker has breached their system. The director of the FBI immediately flies into a rage, feeling that someone is challenging the authority of the FBI. So he immediately orders the computer department to work overtime to track down the culprit. On the other hand, and in contrast to the agent's anxiety, a cop named John uses his vacation time to visit his daughter, Wendy, at her university, wanting to smooth things over between them. Little did he know, this would put them in an even more awkward situation. Faced with John's sudden appearance, Wendy is caught completely off guard. Seeing her relationship with her boyfriend Taylor, exposed by her father right there and then, she is immediately embarrassed to the point of anger. She even calls her father by his first name in front of Taylor. But Wendy doesn't realize that this impulsive action triggers John's rebellious side. Seeing that she won't acknowledge their father-daughter relationship, he evaluates Taylor's background right in front of Wendy. Seeing the situation getting out of control, Wendy finally calls him Dad. Taylor, standing beside her, only now learns John's identity. He thinks that John will be embarrassed by this, but Taylor is instead very surprised. This is all because Wendy had previously told him that her biological father had died long ago. But why is their father-daughter relationship so bad? It turns out, because of his job as a police officer, John has been absent from his children's lives since they were little. After he and his wife divorced, the children, who were already distant from John, became even more estranged. That's why their relationship became so strained. In the end, this reconciliation trip, initiated by John, goes sour, and the two part ways unhappy. Watching Wendy's figure through the window, John wants to salvage their relationship. But before he can think of a way, a phone call pulls John back to reality. His superior wants to give him an urgent assignment. Seeing the urgency in his superior's voice, John tries to suppress the annoyance in his heart. Little did he know, his superior was sending him to find a hacker named Matthew. You must know that seasoned police detectives only handle major cases. So after hearing this, John immediately feels that his superior is making fun of him. Already annoyed, he disregards his superior's authority and directly refuses the assignment. John tells him that it's 3:00 a.m., and new police officers can handle this small matter. As for him, he needs to go home and catch up on sleep. Hearing these impatient words, his superior doesn't get angry. He's used to John's temper by now. According to his superior's explanation, it turns out that this matter isn't being handled by the police department, but is being supported at the FBI's request. The FBI wants the task force to send a seasoned police detective to locate Matthew. From the agent's cautious attitude towards the target, his superior guesses that Matthew's identity isn't just that of a simple hacker. And John also understands the importance of this matter from his superior's words. After he calms down, his superior orders John to act quickly, find the target, and escort him to the building. So, at 3:00 a.m., John drives off on this unwilling journey. Little does John know that this seemingly ordinary mission is fraught with danger. Will he be able to complete his mission and bring Matthew back safely? At the same time, Matthew is at home, unaware of what he's about to face, typing complex code on his computer. Little does he know that 5 assassins are watching him from outside the apartment. Soon after, they begin to act according to their plan, thinking that they will catch Matthew red-handed. Unexpectedly, a knock on the door interrupts the assassin's actions. The visitor is John. However, Matthew is extremely wary and doesn't immediately open the door. Only when John shows his police badge does he crack the door open a little. Clearly, Matthew doesn't like cops, but under the threat of the FBI's order, he pretends to cooperate with John. He pretends to pack his backpack, preparing to leave with him. Then, taking advantage of John's lapse in vigilance, Matthew immediately runs towards the window, intending to escape. Unfortunately, because the window hasn't been opened in a long time, the mechanisms are rusted, and it only opens halfway. His escape plan is thus discovered by John. But before Matthew can regret it, a bullet pierces the glass, causing him to scream. Fortunately, in the nick of time, John reacts quickly and pulls him down. Matthew escapes death by a hair's breadth. But before he can breathe a sigh of relief, the assassins across the street realize they've been exposed and immediately stop hiding. A barrage of bullets immediately engulfs the two men. John understands that hiding forever isn't the way to go. So, to find an opportunity to get Matthew to escape, he pokes his head out to identify the assassins' locations. Spotted by the assassins, they immediately pull the trigger. Luckily, John is a seasoned police detective and isn't injured at all. But Matthew, who has never been involved in combat, is miserable, thinking that the two of them are unlikely to escape death. Fortunately, through that reconnaissance, John has a rough idea of the assassins' locations. So he decisively opens fire towards the window. Taking advantage of the assassins dodging, he pulls Matthew to quickly escape the apartment. But the assassins won't let them leave easily. They quickly rush into Matthew's apartment, but nothing escapes John's eyes. He throws a fire extinguisher straight into the room and then fires 3 shots at the fire extinguisher, taking down one of the assassins who was charging forward. At the same time, the remaining assassins launch another fierce attack on the 2 men. Reluctantly, John is forced to bring Matthew back into the apartment. Seeing no movement in the room, the assassins immediately break down the door and fire wildly inside. But the targets are still not there. Just as the assassin lowers his guard, John quickly pulls the trigger. Unexpectedly, the assassin doesn't die from the bullet. The 2 sides are deadlocked. In the blink of an eye, John runs out of bullets. Seeing the assassin getting closer and closer to them, John has no choice but to fight to the death, trying to get Matthew to retreat. At this critical moment, an explosion occurs in the assassin's apartment. It turns out that Matthew's doll fell to the ground due to the broken door, accidentally triggering the explosive device on the computer. The sniper above, seeing this, assumes that Matthew has been killed by his comrades and packs up his weapons, preparing to retreat. At the same time, although John doesn't know what's going on, he still pulls Matthew to leave quickly. But just as the 2 are about to drive away, another assassin discovers them and immediately blocks John in this dangerous situation. Fortunately, John is able to swerve the steering wheel in time, using a trash can to knock the assassin down. Thinking that the 2 have finally escaped, unexpectedly, the sniper appears in front of them. Seeing the assassin clinging to them like a leech, John doesn't panic and immediately steps on the gas. He uses the obstacles on the road to knock the assassin away. However, John and Matthew don't know that after such a heavy collision, the 2 assassins are still alive and have reported that the target has been rescued by the police to their boss, Thomas. Thomas, after hearing the news, is extremely angry and prepares to send a helicopter to support the assassins in eliminating Matthew. But why is he so determined to kill the target? It is also at this time that the FBI discovers something unusual, learning that the 7 victims who were killed were all top hackers. An intuition tells the director that there's a larger conspiracy behind this case. So he immediately orders his subordinates to start investigating the hard drives of the 7 dead victims, determined to find the mastermind. On the other hand, John and Matthew are unaware of the situation at the FBI. After a long journey, they finally arrive in Washington. Thinking that his mission is over, unexpectedly, when the program written by the hackers is activated, the traffic lights on the streets rapidly change color. Not only can Matthew and John not escape, but all the vehicles on the streets are involved in car accidents. John now realizes that the traffic system has been paralyzed. So to prevent further accidents on the road, John immediately gets Matthew out of the car and starts walking. The 2 are hurriedly walking down the street, and they don't realize that a helicopter is constantly circling in the air above them, and their goal is them. Later, the FBI also received a report. Learning that the local traffic system has been paralyzed before his superiors can think of a solution, other regions report that their traffic systems have also been attacked. To ensure the safety of employees, large office buildings immediately begin evacuating people. But Thomas's revenge is not over. Before the government can resolve this crisis, Thomas immediately orders the next hacker to make the stock market system completely out of control. To soothe the panic of the large number of investors, the director immediately orders leading financial experts to intervene, bringing the stock market data back to normal. At the same time, John finally gets Matthew to the FBI. However, from the director's attitude, it's clear that the 2 have arrived at the wrong time. But before they can find out what's going on, the news on TV gives them the answer. Watching the reporter's coverage, Matthew's expression is extremely ugly. But before he can come back to his senses, he learns from the director about the deaths of the 7 other hackers. Matthew knows that he has made a big mistake and regrets it, wanting to tell John about the mastermind's next plan. But before John can answer, the director standing next to him becomes extremely angry. He threatens Matthew not to interfere in the FBI's work unless Matthew admits he's a member of the terrorist group. Faced with the director's threat, even though Matthew initially intended to confess, under the director's warning, he can only affirm that everything is just his speculation. Seeing the director abusing his power, John can't suppress his temper. He directly mentions the assassins chasing the 2 and emphasizes that Matthew must be very important to the person who planned the system intrusion. Seeing John's mood getting more and more agitated, the director reluctantly gives in. He immediately sends someone to escort the 2 to the Department of Homeland Security. There, a hacker is in charge of investigating the case. Later, under the escort of agents, they quickly get into the car to go to their destination. Thinking that the group will arrive soon, unexpectedly, because the traffic system is paralyzed, the speed of the vehicles is very slow. To quickly reach their destination, the agents have to ask the Washington police for help. Little does anyone know that this call will help the enemy pinpoint their location. By tracking the agent's call, the hacker successfully identifies Matthew's location. Then, the helicopter, with the support of Lucy, begins to fly towards the target. On the other hand, the agents are still unaware of the danger that is coming. Seeing Matthew constantly babbling to hide his fear, John doesn't pretend anymore. He immediately demands that Matthew tell the truth. Matthew is very surprised. He doesn't know when he was exposed, but thinking about Thomas turning against him, he tells everything to John. It turns out that Thomas planned this cyber attack. He hired 8 top hackers, including Matthew, to directly paralyze the transportation and electrical systems of the United States. But he was afraid of being exposed because of it, so he hired assassins to eliminate the 8 hackers in order to cover up his criminal evidence. Just as the 2 are talking, the GPS voice in the car suddenly changes. Matthew immediately recognizes this female voice. It's the same woman who contacted him to create the virus program. John immediately grabs the walkie-talkie and, with just one sentence, exposes Lucy's disguise. Seeing that his opponent is so intelligent, Thomas is intrigued. He uses money to tempt John, but John refuses him outright. However, Thomas isn't angry. His purpose of delaying the agents has been achieved. As soon as the helicopter presses the attack button, a barrage of bullets immediately engulfs the group. Seeing this, the agents hurriedly fire back, but because the assassins have the advantage from above, the situation is still extremely unfavorable for the police. The agents are forced to helplessly tell Matthew and John to retreat first. Can they safely reach their destination? Very quickly, the assassins discover that the target has disappeared and quickly fly the helicopter after the two. Faced with the relentless pursuit of his opponent, John doesn't panic. He immediately drives the car into a fire hydrant. The powerful water jet directly knocks an assassin off the helicopter. Then, to escape the assassin's pursuit, John quickly drives towards the tunnel. Thomas discovers their intentions and immediately orders the hacker to infiltrate the tunnel system. Then, following the false directions on the sign, the oncoming vehicles run in the opposite direction in the tunnel. In this critical situation, fortunately, John reacts in time, turns the car around, and avoids an accident. But how could Thomas easily let this go? He continues to order the hacker to turn off the lights in the tunnel. John and Matthew feel that something is wrong and hurriedly get out of the car and run. Seeing Matthew almost get hit by an oncoming car, John quickly steps forward, pulls him out, and saves his life. Just as the two are breathing a sigh of relief, a silver car flies into the air. Fortunately, two other cars appear at this critical moment, blocking this fatal collision. But then, the large truck loses control due to the accident. The two see this and feel that something is wrong, trying to run for their lives, fortunately escaping behind a stone pillar. Just as Matthew and John are catching their breath and look up, they see the helicopter is still waiting for them at the tunnel entrance. This scene has completely enraged John. Then, despite Matthew's protests, he quickly gets back into the police car, steps on the gas, and drives straight towards the tunnel entrance, determined to deliver a fatal blow to the assassins. The opponent also discovers his intentions and hurriedly grabs his gun and fires. But faced with the enemy's fierce attack, John doesn't flinch. Finally, when the police car is about to fly out of the tunnel, he seizes the opportunity and dives under the police car. The police car, thanks to its speed, flies directly up, crashing into the helicopter in the air. The assassin who survived is shocked by the scene before him. Only now does he realize what a terrifying opponent he has encountered. He immediately reports the situation to Thomas. Seeing the catastrophic situation ahead, to prevent his plan from failing, Thomas immediately orders Lucy to activate the Phase 3 plan. On the other hand, Matthew is very impressed by John's courageous actions. He didn't expect his opponent to be able to ram the helicopter. But just as the two are catching their breath, Thomas's people begin to act on the Phase 3 intrusion. And faced with Thomas's conspiracy, can John and Matthew successfully stop it? After a short rest, Matthew and John continue on their way. Finally, they arrive at the Department of Homeland Security. But the scene here is similar to the FBI headquarters. The agents are in disarray and have no time to receive them. John has no choice but to take Matthew outside, wanting to call the director and report the situation, but Matthew stops him. This is because the hacker can use the phone signal to track their location. John has to use the walkie-talkie to contact the director. He recounts the experience of being chased by the assassins and reveals the hacker's next plan. The director listens and immediately looks towards the screen, only to see that all the TVs are broadcasting news about the White House. Only now does the director realize that what Matthew said was true. However, before he can regret it, the White House on the screen suddenly explodes. This scene terrifies everyone present. Even John didn't expect his opponent to be so arrogant. He immediately goes to the White House to check things out. Fortunately, the White House is still intact. However, just after John informs the director of the news, along with the hacker continuing to expand the attack, the communication system is also disabled. Seeing that the situation has developed to such a terrible level, Matthew deeply regrets his initial actions. He knows that Thomas's next plan must be to control the US power grid. So, to make up for his mistakes, he immediately informs John. The two quickly drive to the power station. At the same time, Lucy, using her fake identity as an agent, successfully breaks into the power station, preparing to hack the US power system. However, just as they are operating, Matthew and John arrive at their destination. Seeing the security room full of dead bodies, John knows that the two are still one step behind. However, fortunately, Lucy and her accomplices haven't taken action yet, so they quickly locate the control room on the map, preparing to enter and stop them. However, just as the two begin to act, Thomas's people also discover them through the surveillance screen. Then, the two sides meet at the corner. Fortunately, the opponent is no match for John. After just a few moves, John knocks down his opponent on the spot. After resolving this incident, the two continue to move towards the control room. At the same time, the FBI is also taking measures, thinking that they can provide some assistance to John and Matthew. Unexpectedly, his subordinate reports to the director that because the infiltrating terrorists are constantly moving, the investigation unit cannot determine the opponent's location. On the other hand, Lucy's intrusion program is about to be completed. Fortunately, in this critical situation, the two finally make their way to the 4th floor. John subdues Lucy, and Matthew takes the opportunity to decipher the virus. Thinking that Thomas's plan has failed, unexpectedly, Lucy still refuses to give up. Taking advantage of John's inattention, the two sides immediately engage in combat. But what surprises John is that the opponent's strength surpasses his. In just a few moves, he's been beaten to a pulp. Seeing this, Lucy leisurely leaves, wanting to restart the intrusion plan. But how could John let her get away? He immediately pulls himself up and grapples with his opponent. Lucy is caught off guard and is struck unexpectedly. The battle ends when John throws her out. Just as Matthew and John are breathing a sigh of relief, Lucy, who was unconscious, wakes up. Seeing the person who pulled her hair, her anger completely exploded. Lucy quickly subdues Matthew, threatening him to restore the virus program. At the same time, John on the lower floor is trying to stand up. Seeing the employee parking lot in the distance, he immediately comes up with a new plan. Then, he drives the nearby car, steps on the gas, drives straight into the ventilation shaft, and shoots up to the 4th floor. As for Lucy, she's still completely unaware. Faced with Matthew's fear, she still threatens him to implant the virus immediately. Seeing the intrusion program about to be activated, fortunately, in this critical situation, John drives the car straight into the control room. The two sides once again engage in a dramatic confrontation. To defeat Lucy, John doesn't hesitate to bet his life. He steps on the gas, ramming through the elevator, thinking that the two will die together. Fortunately, the elevator space is too narrow, and the car is temporarily stuck in midair. But John's situation is still not promising. Following the momentum, Lucy climbs onto the car to the top. The two continue to fight. The car also falls deeper into the elevator due to the change in gravity. In this dangerous moment, John seizes the opponent's opening and knocks her down. However, before he can relax, another assassin manages to get to the elevator. He fires continuously at John. In the nick of time, Matthew manages to use a stick to knock the assassin down, thinking that the danger has been lifted, but unexpectedly, the car can't hold on any longer and continues to fall. Seeing this, John quickly grabs the steel cable to save his life. Lucy, along with the car, falls to the bottom and dies instantly. Then, the two return to the power control room. John understands that the virus program is about to be activated and asks Matthew if he's confident he can handle it. Matthew doesn't dare to guarantee it, but promises John that he can delay the virus's activation time. At the same time, Thomas on the other side senses something is wrong. Everyone is ready, but Lucy is still silent. Moreover, according to the hacker's report, the power security system is restarting. Thomas hears this and has an ominous premonition, calling Lucy to ask about the situation. Unexpectedly, waiting for him is John's taunt. Only now does John know that his arrogant words have completely enraged Thomas. A greater crisis is awaiting both of them. Thomas is extremely angry when he learns that the plan has failed. In his rage, he immediately orders the hacker to redirect all natural gas transport lines to the power station. And John and Matthew are still unaware of the danger that's coming. Matthew finds Thomas's picture and sends it to the FBI's computer. The director sees it and recognizes his opponent. It turns out Thomas used to be a cybersecurity expert for the FBI. He discovered vulnerabilities in the defense system and offered a solution. Unexpectedly, the FBI director not only didn't accept it, but also ruined his reputation and froze his assets. Thomas harbors a grudge against the FBI and planned this cyber attack. Then, before the two can come up with a solution, Matthew detects the smell of gas. Knowing that something is wrong, he immediately leads John to run away. But then an accident occurs. Fortunately, they manage to hide in the small truck and escape death by a hair's breadth. But this also makes Matthew realize how terrifying the opponent they're facing is. He feels that their efforts are meaningless. Unexpectedly, while the two are arguing, along with the power system being damaged, the city immediately plunges into darkness. Seeing the situation getting out of control, Matthew suddenly remembers the genius hacker Warlock that he knows. Perhaps he'll have a solution. So, to stop Thomas's plan, the two drive the helicopter that Lucy left behind and quickly fly to Warlock's house. Following the route that Matthew directs, they quickly reach their destination. With Warlock's help, the virus code created by Matthew is quickly located in the branch building. Not only is there excess power there, but a large number of cooling systems are installed. However, before the three can guess Thomas's purpose, Thomas's people discover that the security system has been invaded. Immediately afterward, the hacker infiltrates the computers of the intruders. Through Warlock's camera, Thomas now knows that Matthew and John have escaped. Recalling John's taunts, he immediately comes up with a great way to retaliate. Then the hacker quickly connects to Warlock. John sees this and is still unaware of the danger that is coming, still loudly taunting Thomas. But when his daughter Wendy appears on the computer, John can no longer maintain his arrogance. He decides to immediately go rescue his daughter. Matthew, to repay John's life-saving grace, despite being afraid, still offers to go with him. The two start their rescue journey, but what outcome awaits them? At the same time, Wendy is still trapped in the elevator due to the power outage. Thomas's people have found her. Using fake documents, they successfully deceive her into trusting them. Waiting until she takes the bait, they immediately drop the disguise. Wendy now realizes that she has been tricked, but because there are too many people, no matter how hard she struggles, it's useless. On the other hand, John and Matthew have arrived at the building smoothly. They use the darkness to cover them, quickly breaking into the basement of the building. After a series of operations by Matthew, the FBI successfully receives a signal from the building. Only now does the director understand Thomas's purpose. It turns out that the building contains all of America's financial data and government secrets. Once the headquarters are attacked, the system will receive an order and immediately upload all data to the server. At that time, Thomas can take the opportunity to infiltrate and transfer these secrets to a hard drive. Then, he can not only steal hundreds of millions of US dollars, but the fate of the entire nation will also be in his hands. So, to prevent Thomas's conspiracy, the director immediately sends a large number of agents to support the two men. At the same time, the assassins who received Thomas's order have found John and Matthew. A major battle immediately breaks out. Finally, the battle ends with the assassin being seriously injured. However, faced with John's interrogation, the opponent still doesn't reveal any information. Just as the situation falls into a stalemate, Thomas accidentally asks about the results of the assassin's actions. Knowing that John has reached the third floor, he doesn't expect his opponent to be so powerful. So, he hurriedly sends another assassin, promising him that after eliminating John, Lucy's reward money will also be split among them. But will the final result be as Thomas wishes? At the same time, Matthew, during the battle between John and the assassin, is accidentally pushed downstairs, thinking that death is waiting for him. Unexpectedly, Matthew finds the system, and thanks to this, he takes the opportunity to further strengthen the data security program. But just as he's focused on operating, Thomas's subordinates capture him and take him to where Wendy is being held. On the other hand, the assassin who was sent has found John. He relies on his brute strength, quickly closing in on John. The two immediately engage in a major battle. Only the assassin this time is clearly much more powerful. After just a few moves, John falls into a disadvantageous position. Even his gun falls during the battle. Just as he tries to retrieve his weapon, the assassin doesn't give John a chance, immediately attacking with the gun. In the nick of time, John cleverly opens the air conditioning valve, thanks to which he escapes death. However, the danger is still not eliminated. The plane sent by the FBI has been discovered by Thomas. He knows that his whereabouts have been exposed, and immediately takes Matthew and Wendy, preparing to retreat. In this critical moment, fortunately, John arrives in time. He jumps onto the truck along with Thomas and begins to pursue them. Along the way, John seizes the opportunity, taking advantage of the truck driver's inattention to knock him down on the spot, successfully gaining control of the truck. Then he accelerates, rushing towards Thomas and his gang. And Thomas is still threatening Matthew to decrypt the system. Thinking that the timid Matthew will compromise, he unexpectedly resists. This is because Matthew understands that Thomas can only rely on him to decrypt at this time, so he definitely won't kill him. Conversely, once he helps him crack the code, the opponent will definitely turn against him and kill him. Thomas doesn't expect that his tactics have been seen through by him and is immediately angered to the point of madness. But before he can think of a way, his gang has discovered the truck's abnormality, and John in the truck is still unaware that he has been exposed, immediately contacting the director, reporting Thomas's location, and asking his opponent to come to support him. At the same time, seeing the situation getting worse and worse, Thomas has a new plan. He orders the hacker to infiltrate the pilot's communication system. Then, Thomas pretends to be a superior, issuing an order, asking the pilot to attack the truck where John is. Fortunately, John relies on his superb driving skills to successfully dodge. However, before he can curse the pilot, the aftershock of the explosion causes the overpass to collapse. John can only continue to dodge. The pilot sees that he's so tenacious and directly closes in, launching a fierce attack. Faced with the unexpected attack, John has to adjust the truck's direction, escaping death by a hair's breadth. He can't help but curse the pilot. Unexpectedly, the opponent seems to hear the call and continues to attack John with a new wave. Under the plane's attack, John is beaten to a pulp. Even the big truck is now only half left. Thinking that he would give up, unexpectedly, seeing the ruined overpass in front of him, he quickly reverses the car, wanting to use inertia to fly to the opposite side. But the pilot has seen through John's intentions and continues to attack him. The truck is completely wrecked, and John is also in danger. Fortunately, in this critical moment, he seizes the opportunity and jumps onto the fighter jet. But after the recent battle, the plane is also damaged and about to explode. Seeing this, the pilot immediately activates the escape device. But John is not so lucky. The out-of-control fighter jet continuously spins in the air, but John doesn't give up. Thanks to his extraordinary courage, he escapes successfully. Then, John doesn't care about the injuries on his body and continues to set out to rescue his daughter. At the same time, Thomas and his gang have arrived at an abandoned warehouse. But before the group can rest, Thomas continues to threaten Matthew to decrypt. But the opponent still resolutely refuses. But this time, Thomas comes up with a new trump card. He directly pulls Wendy, using her to threaten Matthew. Seeing his benefactor's daughter being taken hostage, Matthew has no choice but to agree to help him decrypt. Seeing that Thomas's conspiracy is about to succeed, fortunately, in this critical moment, John quickly arrives with a gun. He eliminates Thomas's subordinates one by one. Wendy sees her father running to her, risking his life at this time. Her heart is full of regret. But just as father and daughter are feeling emotional, the assassin beside them doesn't hold back. Taking advantage of John's inattention, he fires a shot, hitting him in the arm. John's gun also flies out as a result. Thomas sees this and is extremely pleased, immediately intending to shoot John dead. In this dangerous moment, Wendy disregards the danger to her life, escaping the assassin's control and kicking the gun towards John. But she doesn't succeed, and this action has completely enraged Thomas. He suddenly has an idea, intending to play a game, immediately controlling John, bringing him in front of the computer, intending to let John witness the moment of his plan's success. But just as Thomas lowers his guard, John, to prevent his plan, doesn't hesitate to pull the trigger and shoot himself. The bullet immediately pierces through Thomas's body. The assassin sees this and intends to counterattack, but is knocked down by Matthew on the spot. And thanks to this moment, father and daughter also reconcile. At the same time, the federal rescue forces finally arrive in time, rescuing the three from the abandoned warehouse. Wendy and Matthew also develop feelings for each other because of this. But what ending awaits them? The movie ends as the ambulance leaves, from causing a series of car accidents on the highway. disrupting stock market data, to finally, the conspiracy to cut off the East Coast power grid, making the essential infrastructure of the US paralyzed. Each step touches the Achilles heel, digital of modern society. This crisis setting has escaped the framework of traditional action movies with just pure fighting, making the audience not only watch an entertaining movie but also feel the coldness about the vulnerability of the digital age. Today's story ends here. Thank you for watching.